To serve you, my lord. How may Tima serve, my lord? No warriors, not here. Tima's hair sat on his head like an inverted gray bowl. Rand sighed. For the 100th time, Tima, I am not a lord. As my lord wishes. The groom's bow was even lower this time. It was his name that caused the problem.
Hey, White Teapot, how you doing? Thanks for stopping by.
Alan Mandragoran. For Lan, according to the custom of Malkir, the royal Al named him king, though he never used it himself. For Rand,
hey, Smoked Out, how you doing, bro? Thanks for stopping by.
Long ago, before the Two Rivers was called the Two Rivers, it had meant son of. Some of the servants in Faldara Keep, though, had taken it to mean he was a king too, or at least a prince. All of his argument to the contrary had only managed to demote him to lord. At least he thought it had.
I hope everyone's doing good tonight.
He'd never seen quite so much bowing and scraping. Even
Give me 1 second.
I regret saddle, Tima. He knew better than to offer to do it himself. Tima would not let Rand soil his hands. I thought I'd spend a few days seeing the country around. Once he was on the big base Stallion's back, a few days would see him at the River Aranin, or across the border to Arafel. They'll never find me then. The groom bent himself almost double and stayed bent. Forgive, my lord, he whispered hoarsely. Forgive. But Tima cannot obey. Flushing with embarrassment, Rand took an anxious look around. There was no one else in sight. Then grabbed the man's shoulder and pulled him upright. He might not be able to stop Tima and a few others from acting like this, but he could try to stop anyone else from seeing it. Why not, Tima? Tima, look at me, please. Why not? It is commanded, my lord, Tima said, whispering. He kept dropping his eyes, not afraid, but ashamed that he could not.
What's everyone smoking on tonight?
Ternarans took shame the way other people took being branded a thief. No horse may leave this stable until the order is changed. Nor any stable in the keep, my lord. Rand had his mouth open to right, but instead, no horse. Yes, my lord. The order came down only a short time ago. Only moments. Tima's voice picked up strength. All the gates are closed as well, my lord.
Different pipe
None
this
may
time.
enter or leave without permission. Not even the city patrol. So Tima has been told. Rand swallowed hard, but it did not lessen the feeling of fingers clutching his windpipe. The order, Tima. It came from Lord Agomar? Of course, my lord. Who else? Lord Agomar did not speak the command to Tima, of course, nor even to the man who did speak it to Tima. But, my lord, who else could give such a command in Faldara? Who else? Rand jumped as the biggest bell in the keep bell tower let out a sonorous peal. The other bells joined in, then bells from the town. If Tima may be
Hey,
told,
Faded, how you doing?
above the reverberations. My lord must be
About
very
to do a
happy.
dab.
Rand had to shout back to be heard.
At least the coach started.
Why? The welcome is finished, my lord. Tima's gesture took in the bell tower. The Amelin seat will be sending for my lord and my lord's friends to come to her now.
Some Sunday driver.
He just had time to see the surprise on Tima's face, and then he was gone. He did not care what Tima thought. She will be sending for me now. Chapter 3. Friends and Enemies. Rand did not run far, only as far as the Sally gate around the corner from the stable. He slowed to a walk before he got there, trying to appear casual and unhurried.
Excuse me.
The arched gate was closed tight. It was barely big enough for two men to ride through abreast, but like all the gates in the outer wall, it was covered with strips of black iron and locked shut with a thick bar. Two guards stood before the
The
gate.
ball and smoke on right now is
plate and mail armor with long swords on their backs. Their golden surcoats or the
that's
black
just some
armor
roach weed.
chest.
Topped
He
with
knew
some
one of them
wax.
slightly. Ragan. The scar from a Trolloc arrow made a white triangle against Ragan's dark cheek behind the bars of his
Take
face
a
guard.
drink before I do a
The
dab real
puckered
quick.
skin dimpled with a grin when he saw Rand. Peace favor you, Randall Thor. Ragan almost shouted to be heard over the bells. Do you intend to hit rabbits over the head, or do you still insist that club is a bow? The other guard shifted to stand more in front of the gate. Peace favor you, Ragan. And said, stopping in front of him. It was an effort to keep his voice calm. You know it's a bow. You've seen me shoot him. No good from my horse, the other guard said sourly. Rand recognized him now. His deep-set, almost black eyes that never seemed to blink. They peered from his helmet like twin caves inside
Just
another
enough. There.
He supposed there could be worse luck for him than Masima guarding the gate, but he was not sure how, short of a red Aes Sedai. It's too long, Masima added. I can shoot 3 arrows with a horse bow while you reach 1 with that monster. Rand forced a grin as if he thought it was a joke. Masima had never made a joke in his hearing, nor laughed at one. Most of the men at Faldara accepted Rand. He trained with Lan and Lord Ottokar. And most important of all, he had arrived at Faldara in company with Moraine and Aes Sedai. Some seemed unable to forget his being an outlander, though, barely saying 2 words to him, and then only if they had to. Masima was the worst of those. It's good enough for me, Rand said. Ragan. How about letting me out? All this noise and bustle is too much for me. Better to be out hunting rabbits, even if I never see one. Ragan half turned to look at his companion, and Rand's hopes began. Ragan was an easygoing man. His mask was a thin scar, and he seemed to like Rand. But Masima was already shaking his head. Ragan sighed. It cannot be, Rand al'Thor. He gave a tiny nod toward Masima as if to explain. It were up to him alone. No one is to leave without a written pass. Too bad you did not ask a few minutes ago. The command just came down to bar the gates. But why would Lord Agomar want to keep me in? Masima was eyeing the bundles on Rand's back and his saddlebag. Rand tried to ignore him. I'm his guest, he went on to Ragan. By my honor, I could have left any time these past weeks. Why would he mean this order for me? It is Lord Agomar's order, isn't it? Masima blinked at that, and his perpetual frown deepened. He almost appeared to forget Rand's facts. Ragan laughed. Who else could give such an order, Rand al'Thor? Of course it was Uno who passed it to me, but whose order could it have been? Masima's eyes, fixed on Rand's face, did not blink. I just want to go out by myself, that's all, Rand said. I'll try one of the gardens then. No rabbits, but at least there won't be a crowd. The light illumine you and peace favor you. He walked away without waiting for an answering blessing, resolving not to go near any of the gardens on any account. Burn me. Once the ceremonies are done, there could be Aes Sedai in any of them. Aware of Masima's eyes on his back, Masima, he kept his pace normal. The bells stopped ringing, and he skipped a step. Minutes were passing, a great many of them.
He
Time
just
for
up
the
again.
Amarant seat to be shown to her
At
chambers.
least we heated up about twice, depending on the
To start a search
size
when
of
he
the
was
dab
not
you put
found.
in. I put a
As soon
pretty
as he was
healthy
out of
one
sight of
in.
the Sally gate, he began to run again. There's the barracks kitchens, the carter's gate, where all the foodstuffs and other feet were brought in. Food clothes and bars around the four soldiers. The hurried down across the kitchen yard as if he had never been down. The dog gate at the back of the keep, just high enough and wide enough.
Hey,
for
Smoking
one
a
man
Small
on
Town,
foot,
how you doing,
and its
bro?
guards, too. He turned around before they saw him.
Just
There were
doing a
not many
little
gates, even as big as the keep
house
was,
sitting and
but
smoking
if the
right
dog
now.
gate was guarded, they all would be.
How you doing,
Perhaps he
Smoking
could
a
find
Small
length of
Town?
rope. He climbed one of the stairs to the top of the outer wall, to the wide parapet with its crenellated walls. It was not comfortable for him being so high and exposed if that wind came again. But from there he could see across the tall chimneys all the way to the The houses still looked odd to his Two Rivers eyes, eaves reaching almost to the
That's a
ground,
nasty one.
as if the houses were all wood-shingled roof, and chimneys angled to let heavy
Block
snow
mops
slide
to
past.
clean up your mess in there.
A broad paved
That way you
square
don't have
surrounded
to
the keep,
heat
but
it
only
up
100
all
paces from the wall lay streets full of
with a
people
torch
going
to
about
clean
their
it.
daily business. Aproned shopkeepers
Cleans
out
up all
under the
the
awnings in front of their
nasty
shops.
stuff that gets in
Rough-clothed
after you do a
farmers
dab.
in town to buy and sell. Hawkers and tradesmen and townspeople gathered in knots,
Yeah, see?
no doubt to talk about the surprise visit from the
Nice
Amelin
and clean.
Seat. You could see carts and people flowing through one of the gates in the town. Apparently the guards there had the nearest guard tower. One of the soldiers raised a gauntleted hand. With a bitter laugh, he waved it. Not a foot of the wall, but was under the eyes of guards. Leaning
Set
through
this
an
over here so
embrasure,
I
he
don't
peered
drop
down
it.
past the slots in the stone for setting hoardings, down the sheer expanse of stone to the dry moat far below. 20 paces wide and 10 deep, faced with stone, polished, slippery smooth.
Oh, shit.
A
Hell
low
yeah,
wall
smoking
slanted
small
to give
town.
no
I hope
hiding
you get the
place.
job.
Surrounded it to keep anyone from falling in by
Yeah,
accident.
that's a long time to go without
And its
smoking.
bottom was a forest of razor-sharp spikes. Even with a rope to climb down and no guards watching, he could not cross that. What served to keep Trollocs out in the last extreme served just as well to keep him in. Suddenly he felt weary to the bone, drained. The Amelin Seat was there, and there was no way out. No way out, and the Amelin Seat there. She knew he was there. If she had sent the wind that had seized him, then she was already hunting him. Hunting with an Aes Sedai's powers. Rabbits had more chance than he refused to give up, though. There were those who said Two Rivers folk could teach stones and give lessons to mules. When there was nothing else left, Two Rivers people hung on to their stubbornness. Leaving the wall, he wandered through the keep. He paid no mind to where he went, so long as it was nowhere he would be expected. Not anywhere near his room, nor any of the stables, nor any gate. Massima
I don't think I've ever gone
to report him trying to leave.
that
Nor
long
garden.
without smoking.
All he could think of was keeping away from
Even when I was locked up.
even Moraine. She knew about him. Despite that, she had done nothing against him.
I'm listening to a book.
So far.
It's usually what I listen to whenever
What if she's changed
I
her
do
mind?
my lives.
Maybe she sent for the Amerlin Seat. For a moment, feeling lost, he leaned against the corridor
It's
wall,
a
the stone hard under his shoulder. Eyes blank, he
it's
stared at a distant nothing.
not
and saw
one I
things he did not want
normally
to see.
play
Gentle. Would it be so bad to have it all
because the ones I normally play fall under public
over? He
domain,
closed his eyes,
and this
but he
one
could still see himself
don't.
huddling like a rabbit with nowhere left to run.
Yeah, that's the longest
The
of
Aes Sedai
28
closing
years.
around him like
Damn.
ravens. They almost always die soon after. Men who've been gentle. They kept wanting to live. He remembered Tom Merlin's words too well to face that. With a brisk shake, he hurried on down the hall. No need to stay in one place until he was found. How long till they find you anyway? You're like a sheep in a pen. How long? He touched the sword hilt at his side. No, not a sheep. Not for Aes Sedai or anybody else. He felt a little foolish, but determined. People were returning to their tasks. A din of voices
Hey,
and
Southsider,
clattering
how you
pots
doing?
filled the kitchen that lay nearest the great hall, where the Amelin Seat and her party would feast
Just
that
pretty
night.
much chilling,
Cooks and
smoking,
scullions and potboys all but
and
ran
listening
at
to
their
a
work.
book.
The spit dogs trotted in their wicker wheels to turn the spitted meats. He made his way quickly through the heat and steam, through the smells of spices and cooking. No one spared him a second glance. They were all too busy. The back halls where the servants
Yeah, it was
lived
like
in
that
small
today
apartments
too.
were
It was
stirring like a
got to
picnic,
107.
men and women scurried to
And
don their
let's see
best
what it
livery.
is now.
Children did their playing in corners out of the way. Boys waved wooden swords and
It's
girls played
almost
with
9
carved
o'clock
dolls,
in the
some announcing
evening,
that
and
hers
it's
was the
96
Amelin Seat.
degrees right now.
Most of the doors stood open.
And tomorrow
Doorways
is supposed to be
blocked only
another
by beaded
107
curtains.
day.
Normally, that meant whoever lived there was open to
Hey,
visitors.
Migs, how you
But
doing,
today
bro?
it simply meant the residents were in a hurry. Even those who bowed to him did so with hardly
Yeah,
a
that's how it
pause.
is with us too, Southsider.
Many
It's
of them here, when they went to serve, that he was
the
being
rest of the week's
sought.
pretty much could be from
Speak
107 to I think
Speak to an Aes
101
Sedai
or
and tell
something
her where
like
to
that.
find him. The eyes that he passed suddenly appeared to be studying him slyly, and to be weighing and considering behind his back. Even the children took
Hey,
looks in his mind's eye. He knew it was just his imagination. He was sure it was. It had to be. But when the servants'
Inherit
apartments were behind him,
stitches.
he felt as if he had escaped
Thanks for
before
stopping
a trap would
by.
spring shut. Some places in the keep were empty of people. The folk who normally
shit,
work there
yeah.
released for the sudden holiday. The
Yeah,
armor
it
was
was
forged, with all the fires
it was
banked, the anvils silent.
thing got to. Yeah, it was actually 107 today.
Lifeless.
It's barely
Yet
went
somehow
down.
not
We're at
empty.
96 right now.
His skin prickled, and he spun on his heel.
About an hour
No one
ago,
there.
we were at
Just the big square tool chests and the quenching
yeah, about an
barrels
hour
full
ago,
of oil.
about 7 o'clock.
The hair on the back of his
We're
neck
still at
stirred,
about a
whipped round again.
101.
The hammers and tongs hung in their places on the wall. Angrily, he stared around the big room. There's nobody there. It's just my imagination. That wind and the armorland. That's enough to make me imagine things. Outside in the armorer's yard,
Yeah,
the wind
that's how
swirled up around
we
him
usually are
momentarily.
for
Despite himself, he jumped.
pretty
thinking
much
it
for
meant
all
to catch him.
summer.
For a moment, he smelled the
Our
faint odor of
winters,
decay again.
we get
He heard someone
probably
behind him laughing slyly.
70 to, I
Just
think
for a moment.
the lowest we got last year
Frightened,
was
he
about
edged in a
30.
circle, peering warily.
But we
The
got
yard,
still staying
paved
about
with
the
rough stone,
70s and
was empty
shit.
except for him.
And that's winter.
Just
That's some
my
bullshit.
imagination. He ran away. Behind him, he heard the laughter again.
There'd be
This
days
time
that,
without the wind.
or should I say nights,
In the wood yard, the president returned.
it would be snowing like all evening, all through the night. Wake up in the morning, there's still some snow out by
Darting glances over the stacks
I
of
say like
planks
noon,
and
a little bit
timbers
after
waiting
noon.
on the other side of the yard for
The snow is
carpenter's
pretty much
shop,
all gone.
now closed up tight.
Give me
He
one
refused
second.
to look around. He used to think of how one set of eyes could move from place to place so fast. Could cross the open yard from the firewood shed to the lumber shed without even a flicker of movement that he could see. He was sure it was one set of eyes. Imagination. Maybe I'm going crazy already. He shivered. Not yet. Light, please, not yet. Stiff-backed, he stalked across the woodyard, and the unseen watcher followed. Down deep corridors lit only by a few rush torches, in the storerooms filled with sacks of dried peas or beans, crowded with slatted racks heaped with wrinkled turnips and beets, or stacked with barrels of wine and casks of salted beef and kegs of ale. The eyes were always there, sometimes following him, sometimes waiting when he entered.
Had to open the door a little
He
bit
never heard a
because
footstep but his own. Never heard
if
a door
not, I
creak
won't be able to
except when
hear
he
him
opened
knock
and
if anyone
closed it.
comes by.
But the eyes were there. Light. I am going crazy. Then he opened another storeroom door, and human voices, human laughter, drifted out to fill him with relief. There would be no unseen eye here. He went in. Half the room was stacked to the ceiling with sacks of grain. In the other half, a thick semicircle of men knelt in front of one of the bare walls. They all seemed to wear the leather jerkins and bowl-cut hair of menials. No warrior's top-knots, no livery. No one who might betray him accidentally. What about on purpose? The rattle of dice came through their soft murmurs, and somebody let out a raucous laugh at the throw. Loyal was watching them dice, rubbing his chin thoughtfully with a finger thicker than a big man's thumb, his head almost reaching the rafters nearly 2 spans up. None of the dicers gave him a glance. Ogier were not exactly common in the borderlands, or anywhere else, but they were known and accepted here, and Loyal had been in Valdara long enough to excite little comment. The Ogier's dark, stiff-collared tunic was buttoned up to his neck and flared below the waist over his high boots, and one of the big pockets bulged and sagged with the weight of something. Rand knew him.
Yeah,
Even
that would be
watching men
cool,
gamble,
Southsider.
Loyal would not be far from a book.
The only reason me and my brother
In
got
spite
one
of
is
everything, Rand
because
found himself grinning. Loyal
we're
often
doing
had
a
that effect on
rent-to-own
him.
thing,
The Ogier knew so much about some things, so little about others,
which means we're
and he seemed to want to know
going to be
everything.
paying,
Yet Rand could remember the first
at
time
least
he
by
ever
the
saw
end of it,
Loyal.
we could be paying a
With his
lot
tufted
more
ears and his eyebrows that dangled like long
than what
mustaches, and his
you would have
nose
to pay
almost
for
as wide
one
as
if
his
you bought
face.
one outright.
Saw him and thought he was facing a
But
Trolloc.
the good
It
thing
still
about
shamed
it
him.
is,
Ogier and Trollocs.
because it's on a
Things from the
2-year
dark
payment
corners of
plan,
midnight tales.
if anything
Things out of
happens to it
stories and
within that
legends.
time
That
period,
was how he had thought of them before he
before
left
it's
them at
paid
sea.
off,
But since leaving home,
as
he had
long
seen too
as,
many stories walking in the flesh
it's not
ever to be
something
so
I
sure
did
again.
to it that
Eyes
fucked
to
it
die,
up,
and
as
unseen
long as it's just a
watchers,
system
and the
fucking
wind
up by
that caught and
itself,
held. His
then
smile faded.
the place we're going through
Stories are real, he
errands,
said softly.
they'll
Royal's
either
ears twitched,
fix
his
it,
head turned
or
toward
if they
Rand.
can't fix it,
When he saw who it was, the ogre's face
excuse me,
split into grin,
they'll
and he came over.
replace it with a new
There
one.
you are.
Hey, Ginger
His voice was a
Paranormal, how
deep
you doing?
bumblebee rumble.
Thanks for
I
stopping
did not
by.
see you at the welcome. That was something I had not seen before. Two things.
That is, I
The
guess, the good
Shinar
thing about
weapon
it.
and the Amaran seat. She looks tired, don't you think? It cannot be easy being Amaran. Worse than being an elder, I suppose.
He paused with a thoughtful look, but only
Hell
for a
yeah,
moment.
Ginger. That's always good when
Tell
you get
me,
good
Brad.
news.
Do you play at dice too? They play a simpler game here with only 3 dice. We use 4 in the steading.
Alright.
They won't let me play, you know. They just say, glory to the builders.
Hell
and
yeah,
not
Ginger
bet against them.
Paranormal.
I
Congratulations.
don't think that's
That's
fair, do you?
badass.
The dice they use are rather small.
He frowned at
I'll
one of his
get there
hands,
eventually.
big
I
enough
just
to
gotta,
cover a human head.
well,
But
it's
I
my
still
fault. I
think
need to actually get off my
Rand
ass
grabbed
and
his
put
arm
more,
and cut him off.
more content out there, whether it's this or
Loyal.
doing my
Ogier
gameplay.
built Faldara, didn't they? Do you know any way out except by the gates? A crawl hole, a drain pipe, anything at all? If it's big enough for
Hell
a man
yeah.
to wiggle through.
Congratulations.
Out of the way would be good, too.
Yeah, it's definitely hard
Loyal
work
gave a pained
getting
grimace, the
monetized.
ends of his eyebrows almost
Definitely,
brushing his cheeks.
it ain't easy.
Ogier built Muffle the Daranel. But
Hey,
that city was
Caucasian
destroyed in the
Sasquatch, how you
Tauren
doing?
Wars. This
Thanks for
He
stopping
touched the
by.
stone wall lightly with broad fingertips.
Hope everyone's doing good tonight.
I can sketch a plan of Muffle da Daranel. I saw the maps once in an old book in Stedding Shangtai. But of Faldara, I know no more than you. It is well built, though, isn't it? Stark, but well made.
Rand slumped against the wall, squeezing his eyes shut. I need a way out, he whispered. The gates are barred and they won't let anyone pass. But I need a way out.
But why, Rand?
Loyal said slowly.
No one
I
here
inspired
will
something,
hurt you.
Caucasian.
Are you all right, Rand?
Suddenly his voice
Yeah,
rose.
that would be cool.
Matt, Baron,
You put a new video up today.
Rand opened his eyes to
Oh,
see
yeah,
his
I have to
friend
check that
straightening
out,
up
Ginger.
of a knot of dicers. Matt Coffin, long-limbed as a stork, wearing a half-smile as if he saw something funny that no one else saw. Shaggy-haired Perrin Abara, with heavy shoulders and thick arms from his
I don't know,
work as
sometimes I'm a little
blacksmith's
scared to see what I inspired.
They both still wore their Two Rivers garb, plain and sturdy, but travel-worn. Matt tossed the dice back into the semicircle as he stepped out, and one of the men
I'm
called,
not your,
"Here,
I see
Southlander,
average
you can't
person.
quit while you're winning." "Better than when I'm losing," Matt said with a laugh. Unconsciously, he touched his coat at the waist, and Rand winced. Matt had a dagger with a ruby in its hilt under there, a dagger he was never without, a dagger he could not be without. It was a tainted blade from the dead city
Oh,
of
shit.
Shara-Logoth. Tainted
Have
and
to
twisted
check that
by
out.
evil, almost as bad as the Dark One. The evil that had killed Shara-Logoth 2,000 years before, yet still lived among the abandoned ruins.
I have to check that out here in a sec.
That taint would kill Matt if he kept the dagger. It would kill him even faster if he put it
Save
aside.
that.
You'll have another chance to win it back. Rye snorted.
That way I can watch it or listen to it and watch it here in a little bit.
Perrin kept his eyes down as he followed Matt across to Rand. Perrin always kept his eyes down these days, and his shoulders sagged as if he carried a weight too heavy even for their width. "What's the matter, Rand?"
Hell yeah,
"You're as white
Caucasian.
as your shirt."
That
"Hey,
public
What?
domain is
Those
usually what I
clothes?
play.
you
It's
turned
just
Shinaran? Maybe I'll buy
today
myself a coat like that and a fine
I
shirt."
kind of
He shook his coat
not
pocket, producing
playing
a couple of
public
coins.
domain.
"I seem to have
I
luck
like
with
to
the
book an
dice.
author.
I can hardly touch them without winning." "You don't
Hopefully I
have to
don't
bother," Rand said
have to
tiredly.
go through and delete it.
Moraine had all our clothes replaced. They're burned already for all I know.
But Robinson Crusoe is a good one too.
Elan Sue will probably be around to collect those too, so I'd change fast if I were you, before she takes them off your back. Perrin still did not look up.
Cause one of my lives that I was doing, I was
Answering
actually
deepened.
I started playing
They too had encounters.
The
in
Divine
mountains,
Comedy
and
by
only Matt
Dante.
tried to pretend it did not matter. "And I'm not sick." I just need to get out of here. The ambulance seat is here. Lance said, he said if you're
Nice.
here, it would be better for me if I were gone a week. I need to leave, and all the gates are barred. He said that? Matt frowned. I don't understand. He'd never say anything against an Aes Sedai. Why now? Look, Rand, I don't like Aes Sedai any more than you do, but they aren't going to do anything to us. He lowered his voice to say that, and looked over his shoulder to see if...
Hell yeah, Caucasian. Yeah, because a lot of, well, good amount of Lovecraft is public domain. And Call of Cthulhu is one of them.
She isn't so bad, even if she is Aes Sedai. You're thinking like old Sen.
I think what else?
Back home in the Wine Spring Inn. I mean, she hasn't heard us. They won't. Why should they?
Alexander Dumas that did the Man in Iron Mask is public domain. Some Edgar Allan Poe is public domain. A lot of Nietzsche is public domain.
Rand had no idea how the change had come about. Baron did not want to talk about it or about very much of anything since it happened. But it had come at the same time as the slump in his shoulders and a distance in his...
Hell yeah, Caucasian. I'm definitely had to check those out. I've definitely played a lot of that on my live because I have a couple of Lovecraft books on public domain.
He knew that was not fair. They would probably all be dead at Trollocs' hands.
Nice.
A good part of Emond's Field as well. If she had
That's badass, Caucasian. I would never have thought to
the way he used to, or take the dagger from Matt's
do it that way. As far as like the public domain book, audiobooks go.
Could I still be what I am now?
Incorporate that in with the gaming. That's badass.
Matt was still looking at him quizzically, and Perrin had raised his head enough to stare from under his eyebrows. Loyal waited patiently. Rand could not tell them why he had.
But right now I'm playing
they did not know what he was.
Some Robert Jordan right now.
And Egwene and Nynaeve. He wished none of them knew, and most of all he wished Egwene did not. But at least Matt and Perrin, and Loyal too, believed he was still the same. He thought he would rather die than let them know, than see the hesitation and worry.
Yeah, that's the other one that I was going to start playing that falls under public domain was Paradise Lost.
Somebody's watching me, he said finally, following me. Only
like the older books, I definitely listening to some
Matt licked his lips and whispered, "A fade."
Of course
odd
not.
books, I guess
Well,
you could
sir.
say.
How could one of the Eyeless enter Faldara, town or keep? By law, no one may hide his face inside the town walls, and the lamplighters are charged with keeping the streets lit at night, so there isn't a shadow for a Myrddraal to hide in. It could not happen.
Walls don't stop the fade, Matt muttered. Not when it wants to come in. I don't know as laws and lamps will do any better. He did not sound like someone who had half thought fades were only Gleeman's tales less than half a year before. He had seen too much, too. And there was the wind, Rand added. His voice hardly shook as he told what had happened on the tower top. Baron's fists tightened until his knuckles cracked. I just want to leave here, Rand finished. I want to go south. Somewhere away. Just somewhere away. But if the gates are barred, Matt said, how do we get out? Rand stared at him. We? He had to go alone. It would be dangerous for anyone near him eventually. He would be dangerous, and even Moraine could not tell him how long he had. Matt, you know you have to go to Tar Valon with Moraine. She said that's the only place you can be separated from that bloody dagger without dying. And you know what will happen if you keep it. Matt touched his coat over the dagger, not seeming to realize what he was doing. An Aes Sedai's gift is bait for a fish, he quoted. Well, maybe I don't want to put the hook in my mouth. Maybe whatever she wants to do in Tar Valon is worse than if I don't go at all. Maybe she's lying. The truth an Aes Sedai tells is never the truth you think it is. You have any more old sayings you want to rid yourself of? Rand asked. A south wind brings a warm guest. A north wind an empty house. A pig painted gold is still a pig. What about talk shears no sheep? A fool's words are dust. Easy, Rand. Perrin said softly. There is no need to be so rough. Isn't there? Maybe I don't want you two going with me, always hanging around, falling into trouble and expecting me to pull you out. You ever think of that? Burn me, did it ever occur to you I might be tired of always having you there whenever I turn around?
Actually, this one is
And I'm tired of it.
The Great Hunt. It's book 2.
Perrin's face cut him like a knife, but he pushed on relentlessly. There are some here think I'm a lord. A lord. Maybe I like that. But look at you.
I've read the books and
When I go by myself.
I like the audiobooks
Go
because
to Tarvalin or go
it's
hang
something.
yourselves. But I leave here alone. Matt's face had gone stiff, and he clutched the dagger through his coat till his knuckles were white. If that is how you want it, he said coldly. I thought we were.
Because I could play, I could have it play in the audiobook like play when I play the game, or
I'll go. And you
if I'm laying down for the night.
Nobody is going anywhere, Perrin said, if the gates are barred. He was staring at the floor again. Laughter rolled from the gamblers against the wall as someone lost.
All right.
Go or stay, Loyal said. Together or apart, it doesn't matter. You are all three Taviran. Even I can see it, and I don't have that talent. Just by what happens around you. And Moraine Sedai says it too.
Right, that's what usually I put on. I'll put it on and
No more,
put the
Loyal.
sleep timer
I don't
on
hear
and
about that anymore.
lay down.
Loyal shook his head.
Whether you hear it or not, it is still true. The wheel of time weaves the pattern of the age, using the lives of men for thread. And you three are Taviran, center points of the weaving.
No more, Loyal.
For a time, the wheel will bend the pattern around you three, whatever you do. And whatever you do is more likely to be chosen by the wheel than by you. Taviran pull history along behind them and shape the pattern just by being.
Give me one
The
second
wheel
there.
leads Taviran on a tighter line than other men. Wherever you go and whatever you do, until the wheel chooses otherwise, you will.
No more, Matt shouted. The men dicing looked around, and he glared at them until they bent back to their game.
I am sorry, Matt, Loyal rumbled. I know I talk too much, but I did not mean.
I'm not staying here, Matt told the rafters, with a big-mouthed Ogier and a fool whose head is too big for a hat. You coming, Perrin? Perrin sighed, and glanced at Rand, then nodded. Rand watched them go with his stick caught in his throat. I must go alone. Light help me, I have to. Loyal was staring after them too, eyebrows drooping worriedly.
Rand, I really didn't mean to.
Rand made his voice harsh. What are you waiting for? Go on with them. I don't see why you're still here. You're no use to me if you don't know a way out. Go on. Go find your trees and your precious groves, if they haven't all been cut down. And good riddance to them if they have. Loyal's eyes, as big as cups, looked surprised and hurt at first. But slowly they tightened into what almost might be anger.
Hell yeah, that'd be pretty badass. Caucasian.
Some of the old stories claimed Ogier were fierce, though they never said how exactly. But Rand had never met anyone as gentle as Loyal.
If you wish it so, Randolph Thorne,
Loyal said stiffly. He gave a rigid bow and stalked away after Matt and Perrin. Rand slumped against the stacked sacks of grain. Well, a voice in his head taunted. You did it, didn't you? I had to, he told it. I will be dangerous just to be around. Blood and ashes. I'm going to go mad and... No, I won't. I will not use the power, and then I won't go mad. But I can't risk it. I can't, don't you see? But the voice only laughed at him. The gamblers were looking at him, he realized. All of them, still kneeling against the wall, had turned to stare at him. Sharnarans of any class were almost always polite and correct, even to blood enemies. Ogier were never any enemies of Shinar. Shock filled the gamblers' eyes. Their faces were blank, but their eyes said what he had done was wrong. Part of him thought they were right, and that drove their silence.
Hey, Ozark, how you doing?
They only looked at him, but he stumbled out of the storeroom as if they were chasing him. Numbly, he went down through the storerooms, hunting a place to secret himself until some traffic was allowed through the gates again.
No shit. Hell yeah,
He could hide in
Caucasian
the bottom of a
Sasquatch.
fiddler's cart, maybe.
That'd be
They did not search
badass.
the carts on the way out. If they did not search the storerooms, search the whole keep for him. Stubbornly, he refused to think about that. Stubbornly concentrated on finding a safe place. But every place he found, a hollow in a stack of grain sacks, a narrow alley along the wall behind some wine barrels, an abandoned storeroom half filled with empty crates and shadows, he could imagine searchers finding him there. He could imagine that unseen watcher, whoever it was, or whatever, finding him there too. So he hunted on, thirsty and dusty and with cobwebs in his hair. And then he came out into a dimly torchlit corridor, and Egwene was creeping along it, pausing to peer into the storerooms she passed. Her dark hair, hanging to her waist, was caught back with a red ribbon, and she wore a goose-gray dress in the Shannara fashion, trimmed in red. At the sight of her, sadness and loss rolled over him, worse than when he had chased Mat and Perrin and Loyal away. He had grown up thinking he would marry Egwene one day. They both had. But now... She jumped when he popped out right in front of her, and her breath caught loudly. But what she said was, "So there you are. Mat and Perrin told me what you did. And Loyal. I know what you're trying to do, Rand. And it is plain foolish."
Yeah, that one actually might be copyrighted there.
Dark eyes fixed him sternly. He always wondered how she managed to seem...
How you doing, Ozark?
She did it at will, although she was only as tall as his chest, and 2 years younger besides. "Good," he said. Her hair suddenly made him angry. He had never seen a grown woman with her hair unbraided until he left the Two Rivers. There, every girl waited eagerly for the women's circle of her village to say she was old enough to braid her hair. Egwene certainly had. And here she was with her hair loose except for a ribbon. I want to go home and can't, and she can't wait to forget Emond's Field. You go away and leave me alone too. You don't want to keep company with a shepherd anymore. There are plenty of Aes Sedai here for you to moon around now. And don't tell any of them you saw me. They're after me, and I don't need you helping them. Bright spots of color bloomed in her cheeks.
Right.
Do you think
As long as you don't get a strike for it.
Away, and with a cry, she threw herself at him, flung her arms around his legs. They both tumbled to the stone floor, his saddlebags and bundles flying. He grunted when he hit, sword hilt digging into his side, and again when she scrabbled up and plopped herself down on his back as if he were a chair. My mother, she said firmly, always told me the best way to learn to deal with a man was to learn to ride a mule. She said they have about equal brains most of the time. Sometimes the mule is smarter. He raised his head to look over his shoulder at her. Get off me, Egwene. Get off. Egwene, if you don't get off... He lowered his voice ominously. I'll do something to you. You know what I am. He added a glare for good measure. Egwene sniffed. You wouldn't if you could. You would not hurt anybody. But you can't anyway. I know you cannot channel the one power whenever you want. It just happens, and you cannot control it. So you're not going to do anything to me or anybody else. I, on the other hand, have been taking lessons with Moiraine. So if you don't listen to some sense, Randolph Thor, I might just set your britches on fire. You keep on and see if I cannot. Suddenly, for just a moment, the torch nearest them on the wall flared up with a roar. She gave a squeak and stared at it, startled. Twisted dragged her on, pulled her off his back, and sat her against the wall. When he sat up himself, she was sitting there across from him, rubbing her arm furiously. You really would have, wouldn't you? He said angrily. Things you don't understand. You could have burned both of us to charcoal. Men, when you cannot win an argument, you either run away or resort to force. Hold on there. Who tripped who? Who sat on who? And you tried to... He raised both hands. No, you don't. You do this to me all the time. Whenever you realize the argument isn't going the way you want, suddenly we are arguing about something else completely. Not this time. I am not arguing, she said calmly, and I am not changing the subject either. What is hiding except running away?
Right.
After you hide, you'll run away for true. And what about hurting Mat and Perrin and Loyal? And me. I know why. You're afraid you will hurt somebody, even worse if you let them stay near you. If you don't do what you shouldn't, then you don't have to worry about hurting anybody. All this right.
All right, and I'm probably caught into this live and
know if there's a reason.
try to find something to eat here.
Or any Aes Sedai, but Moraine.
I want to thank everyone for stopping by and everyone keep stopping by.
The longer she spent with Moraine.
Until next time, everyone, stay safe out there.